JUnit Basic Assertions, Lecture 1. Basic Test Assertions. We will be using JUnit 5 for developing unit tests, JUnit 5.6.2 to be precise. JUnit 5 versions prior to 5.6.2 are missing some elements covered by this course. If you are like me, you may have grabbed a cup of fresh ground, piping hot coffee and prepared to give your most undivided, concentrated attention to this lecture, to get the most benefit out of it. So let us get started. I'm also going to make a pause and suggest that you pause the course, to let you grab pen and paper, if you want of course, that you might use in order to utilize the powerful facilities of your motor memory. This will aid you in memorizing the JUnit API. So please pause the course, get a pen and paper, and then come back. Let's go. Before we can use JUnit 5 assertions, we must import them. They're implemented as static methods. And oftentimes when I write something out like this, starting with a dash, I will suggest that you write the line down. And I will make 15, 30, or 60-second pause for you to write it out. So please write the following line out. Import static org.junit.jupyter.api.assertions.start. And I'm going to make a 30-second pause. Now we can use static methods of the assertions class in order to make certain statements about what we expect method call results to be, so that JUnit can verify it is the case. And remember, for vast majority of methods of the assertions class, their signature begins with public static void, and where it does not, for example, where it returns a value, I will note it so. So probably the most basic assertion is the assert equals method, the workhorse of the JUnit framework. This method features multiple overloads and contains either 2 or 3 parameters. And on the next slide I will provide a sorted sample of those overloads. So the first parameter is for the expected value, the value you would expect to get from your code if everything ran well. The second parameter is for the actual value, the value which your code generates. And the third parameter is either an optional string message or the supplier type string class to enable you to give a reason for unit test failure if it fails. You will find that you will use assert equals method most frequently in your testing codes. It is the most versatile and applicable testing method. Following are some examples of assert equals method, and I'm going to make a 15-second pause after each one to let you write it down if you want. Of course, writing it down will put it more firmly into your memory than just looking at it. Public static void assert equals object expected object actual. Public static void assert equals int expected int actual. Excuse me. Public static void assert equals float expected float actual. Public static void assert equals char expected, char actual, string message. Public static void assert equals long expected, long actual. And many more for primitive and object types. For object types, it uses the equals method to test for equality. There is also the assert not equals method, with the equivalent examples following. Public static void assert not equals int unexpected, int actual. Public static void assert not equals long unexpected, long actual. Public static void assert not equals object unexpected, object actual. And many more to account for most use cases and for most circumstances. There are two assertions which ascertain truth or falsehood: assert true and assert false. For example, public static void assert true Boolean condition. Public static void assert true Boolean condition string message. This method has more overloads, but the most widely useful ones are given here. Now let us see some examples of the opposite method. Let us see some examples of the assert false method, which is the complement to the assert true method. For example, public static void assert false Boolean condition. Public static void assert false Boolean condition string message. Likewise, there are many overloads of this method, but these ones are the most useful ones. To rehash, so far we have reviewed 4 basic JUnit methods for asserting that certain conditions hold. These methods are assert equals with overloads, assert not equals with overloads, assert true with overloads, assert false with overloads. The next method we will review deals with equality of arrays. This method is assert array equals, and it also features multiple overloads to account for common cases, with examples as follows. Public static void assert array equals int array expected, int array actual. Public static void assert array equals long array expected, long array actual. Public static void assert array equals object array expected, object array actual. Public static void assert array equals float array expected, float array actual, float delta. The values are divergent less than the positive delta for each array element for this last method. So array values do not have to match, they just have to be divergent less than the positive delta. JUnit provides two methods to tell for null, which are the following. Public static void assert null object actual. Public static void assert null object actual string message. Public static void assert not null object actual. Public static void assert not null object actual string message. These methods also feature several overloads, but the ones above are the most commonly used. Of course, at some point you will want to test for exceptional conditions in your code. The framework provides two very convenient methods for this sort of testing, which are public static void assert throws class type T expected type executable executable. Public static void assert throws class type T expected type executable executable string message. Public static void assert does not throw executable executable. Public static void assert does not throw executable executable string message. The executable interface is a functional interface which provides the public void execute throws throwable method. You can either implement this interface as an anonymous interface in your code, or you can use the lambda syntax. Examples of how you can use this interface follow on the next page. This is the anonymous interface syntax, and I'm going to take a 30-second pause to let you write it out. And this is the shorter, more concise lambda syntax which you should favor. And I'm going to take a 15-second pause to let you write it out. Let's rehash the methods we have reviewed within the last few slides, which are assert array equals, assert null, assert not null, assert throws, assert does not throw. This last method, assert does not throw, is one of the few methods of the assertions class where some overloads actually return a value. And you can consult Appendix C, called Appendix C for the Brave, for the full assertions class API. So, especially memorize the syntax for invoking the last two methods. They're obviously indispensable for testing exceptional conditions in your code and are non-trivial to invoke. There are a couple of methods to assert that two object references point to the same object or region of memory. They are public static void assert same, object expected, object actual. Public static void assert same, object expected, object actual, string, message. Public static void assert not same, object unexpected, object actual. Public static void assert not same, object unexpected, object actual, string, message. Please keep in mind that these methods do not test equality, they test identity. There is a method to test whether an array of strings is equal to another array of strings, which is very useful, and this method is public static void assert lines match, list type string expected lines, list type string actual lines. But what if you want to test two strings for equality? Then you will use the following method. And we already saw this method, but please write it out to reinforce it. Public static void assert equals object expected, object actual. Let us proceed further. If you want to include an object within Java's for, var x and y construct, you must implement Java's iterable interface, which can be tested by using the following methods. Public static void assert iterable equals iterable anytype expected, iterable anytype actual. Public static void assert iterable equals iterable anytype expected, iterable anytype actual, string, message. This tests not identity but equality of these collections. Let us rehash the four methods we have covered since the last rehash. Please make sure you know what these methods do. The methods are assert same, assert not same, assert lines match, assert iterable equals. We are approaching the end of the lecture. Stay focused. There has been a lot of covered material which we will immediately use in the following lab. What if we needed to assert that a battery of conditions solved do not throw exceptions, but complete successfully? We can by using the assert all method, which has the following signature. Public static void assert all executable vararg executables. There are many overloads which we will leave for Appendix C for the brave, but this one is the most useful one, and you can familiarize yourself with the functional interface executable by reviewing slides 12 and 13 within this lecture, a useful rehash. There are a couple of methods which test the duration of how long a method runs, and which enable you to make assertions about the duration of that run. These methods are public static void assert timeout, duration duration, executable executable. Public static void assert timeout, duration duration, executable executable, string, message. Public static void assert timeout preemptively, duration duration, executable executable. Public static void assert timeout preemptively, duration duration, executable executable, string, message. Let us review the function of these methods in the next slide, shall we? The assert timeout method runs the executable code within the same thread as the assert method itself, and does not terminate the running of that code if timeout value is exceeded. Code runs to completion no matter what. However, the test will fail if it takes longer than the permitted duration. The assert timeout preemptively method, on the other hand, runs the executable code within a different thread than the assert method itself, and terminates that thread if the timeout value is exceeded, so the code will not run to completion if the allowed duration is exceeded. However, the test will still fail. Last but not least is the fail method. Calling it just fails the test, period, nothing else. Use this method when you want the test to fail unconditionally. There are multiple overloads for the fail method, such as public static type v fail. Please note it returns a value. Public static type v fail string message. One can nicely fail a test with a message. Public static type v fail string message throwable cause. Public static type v fail throwable cause. Please notice that the fail method does return a parameter value. However, this value is actually a dud. It is there to enable you to use this method in one-liner lambda expressions that require a return value. Up to now, we have reviewed exactly 17 diverse methods of the JUnit's Assertions class. These methods provide vast majority of testing functionality you will ever need in your unit testing. These methods often feature multiple overloads, which you are invited to memorize on your own as an exercise by viewing the Appendix C video or by reviewing the Appendix C PDF file. Most likely, you won't use them all often. Mostly, the overloads do not apply in most testing scenarios, hence they are not really important to vast majority of testing scenarios. Now, you should attempt to pass quiz 1, which will test you on the functionality of each of these 17 methods we just covered. So good luck. Please do not skip the quiz. It is very important to get these methods down for your API knowledge. If you want to know all the methods of this API, check out Appendix C with a pen and paper in hand. This appendix is not called for the brave for no reason, however. There are lots of overloaded methods there and lots of methods in general. Don't fail this quiz. Good luck.